Poor little Spike. I just elbowed my dog in the noggin. Sorry, partner. I'm looking for one thing here before I start. There it is. That's what I wanted. Howdy, I am Charlie Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about, politics and religion, and talking to the people I'm not supposed to talk about in the media. That's what I do. I am so glad to see you. I'm so glad to have you join me here, whether you're watching live on YouTube or on Twitch TV, twitch.tv, LinkedIn, YouTube. Did I mention YouTube? I guess I did. And of course, rumble.com/do not talk. Thank God for Rumble, because everyone else has just been hard to work with as a conservative, and especially a Christian conservative. Some of the things I talk about and people I talk to, I don't want you to hear from them. YouTube's been the worst. They're the #1 search engine in the world, second only to Google. Guess who owns YouTube? Google. You're not going to get the truth from them. That's for sure. So that thing that I wanted to bring up there is a QR code that, before I get to my guest, Arthur Schaper, we're talking about the mayoral race in New York City, which, if you're thinking, well, I don't care about that, you best be paying attention what's going on there. But before I get to that, I wanted to tell you about this company right here that I am so glad to be a part of. That QR code, just hold your phone up to it and it'll take you right to nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons. My name is CHARLEE because my name's Charles Lee. CHARLEESIMONS. Nueva is spelled NUEVA for new. That's Spanish for new. New life. nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons. You go, you use that link to go to that website. That'll get you 10% off products at Nueva Life. It's a fairly new company. It's got for energy, for your mind, for body, increased blood flow, energy, performance, endurance, focus. That's called Nitro right there. This I am drinking right now, the Nootropic coffee. It's a coffee drink. It's got coffee in it, but it also has cocoa in it, and it's got cinnamon in it, which I love. But it has lion's mane. It's got mushrooms. It's got all kinds of stuff. Look at all those ingredients on there. All of them healthy, all of them natural, and all of them United States of America. Yes, USA is where they get the products and where everything's made. And that's this right here. I'm having some with little creamer in it. And I love it. It makes me smarter, quicker, makes me run faster, makes me better looking. So apparently I need to drink more. Collagen is the big thing there. Collagen, but their formulation of the collagen, you can see all the ingredients on their website, is the most important thing. And where is it sourced? Again, United States of America. Collagen is going to improve your appearance, your skin, your joints, the health of your body in general, because it's something our body makes naturally, but it makes less of it the older we get. So I'm talking to my fellow folks who are over half a century old. Yeah, 50 and up. You know what I'm talking about. The creaks, the cricks, the joints, the skin, look, collagen. Trust me on this. So please go to nuevalife.com/Charlie Simons, or just use that QR code right there. Arthur Schaper writes for several different publications, online publications. The one that I see most of his stuff on is townhall.com. I like them. They're affiliated with Salem Media Group, where I used to work. And I appreciate what they do and how they do it. And but he's on so many different sites, and he's written he wrote something, and that's when I said, Art, I got to get you on, because I said these very things just 2 days ago on one of my shows. Let COMMIE, MAMDANI take New York City. Maybe they need to literally experience the absolute worst mayor they could ever have for themselves. If that's what you're going to do, then you deserve what you get. Now, I know as a conservative in California, you can say the same thing about me. You're not going to be saying anything I haven't already said. My own fellow conservatives don't even show up for midterm elections. They don't show up for primary elections. We'll go to the big main election, but then we don't even vote the entire ballot because we haven't put any kind of thought or research into the judges that are running, the smaller office holders that we got to take care of, because that's where the deep state is ensconced. They count on us doing exactly what we do, and I hate that we do it. I hate that we comply by not doing anything. So yeah, here in California, I hate to say it, but we deserve what we get. Even the conservatives. Yeah, I'm not voting for these lefty freaks, but I am not sitting back. I am shouting out that my own fellow conservatives aren't doing really anything to stop it. First, start with getting registered to vote. A third of the population in California claims to be Christian, yet only about 40% are even registered. What? Gun owners. What the heck is wrong with you? Hunters, gun enthusiasts, 2A supporters. Why aren't you registered to vote? Well, I don't want the government in my business. They're in your business. You have weapons in California. You had to go through a DOJ clearance. Trust me. You're on a list. So speak up, speak out boldly. Go to registertovote.ca.gov. Registertovote.ca.gov. We're just a little over a week away from a special election that was brought forth by the worst governor this state has ever had, Governor Hairdo, all for Prop 50. I hope he it's too late now to register for that, but not for the big gubernatorial election and the primary that's happening this next summer, then the big election in November, almost a year from now, as we're going to have an opportunity to actually elect a Republican governor and all the other races that are happening. This is the time. I've never seen a better time for us to strike, but we got to be on board. We got to be involved. And that's what I'm talking about today with Arthur Schaper. Oh, did you see? Here's a little compilation. Thank you, Fox News, for putting this together, and of a debate that they just had in New York a few days ago. Watch this.
And final debate between Curtis Sliwa, Zohran Mamdani, and former Governor Cuomo. They all knew what the focus was, and it was on Mamdani, who was literally, in every sense of the word, sweating it out. Listen to this.
My opponents, who spend more time trying to convince the other to drop out than actually proposing their own policies, will speak only of the past, because that's all that they know. I am the sole candidate running with a vision for the future of this city.
Hold on a second.
And former Governor Cuomo.
Hold on a second. Focusing only on the past. Focusing only on the past. Because they want things to return to a level of sanity that the city used to have before under better leadership. That's being only in the past. To me, that is looking to the future. I'm sorry. Let's return to that.
They all knew what the focus was, and it was on Mamdani, who was literally, in every sense of the word, sweating it out. Listen to this.
My opponents, who spend more time trying to convince the other to drop out than actually proposing their own policies, will speak only of the past, because that's all that they know. I am the sole candidate running with a vision for the future of this city.
Zohran is a great actor. He missed his calling. Since I left, homeless rate has more than doubled. When I left, the vacancy rate on housing was 4.5%. It's now 1%. This man never even proposed a bill.
Andrew, you didn't leave. You fled from being impeached by the Democrats in the state legislature.
That's Curtis Sliwa right there. One of my absolute heroes. I love him.
Leave. You fled.
I will be the mayor who doesn't just protect Jewish New Yorkers, but also celebrates and cherishes them.
Not everything is a TikTok video. You're the savior of the Jewish people? You won't denounce globalize the intifada, which means kill Jews. You have never had a job. You've never accomplished anything. There's no reason to believe you have any merit or qualification for 8.5 million lives. Freeze the rent sounds great. Yeah, it affects about 25% of the number of housing units in the city of New York. It's not a new idea. The mayor doesn't have the power to do it anyway. The Rent Guidelines Board does, and he doesn't control the Rent Guidelines Board. So nothing is going to happen. It's all this. It's just more political blather.
I heard the both of them again fighting like kids in the schoolyard. Zoran, your resume could fit on a cocktail napkin, and Andrew, your failures could fill a public school library in New York City.
Wow, that Curtis Sliwa is extraordinary. He did such a great job. Andrew Cuomo trying to act like he's some kind of centrist. He's already, shown exactly who he is and what he is, and he's a disaster. So here I have my own Republican Party saying, oh, Curtis Sliwa should drop out because it's better to have Andrew Cuomo than it is MAMDANI. Talk about the lesser of two evils. Why don't you actually get behind Curtis Sliwa and let that happen, New Yorkers? Let's talk about it with Arthur Schaper on Do Not Talk. Ready? Hit it. What's up, buddy boy? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too again, Charlie.
Charles is fine. That's what my parents named me, and they continue to call me that despite my efforts to get them to call me Charlie. Your story is exactly what I've been saying. Let COMMIE, MAMDANI take New York City. They get what they deserve. They have voted their way into disastrous positions. They don't seem to learn from their past mistakes. I was just talking with a gentleman in Florida the other day, and we were talking about all the New Yorkers. That's a big place for New Yorkers to retire down in Florida. And he goes, they don't seem to have any kind of self-awareness that what they did, where they're trying to escape, they did to themselves.
Yes. I have been particularly interested in what's happening in New York City because you have this outspoken communist. Let's call him what it really is. People are, he likes to cover himself up as a democratic socialist, but that's just a communist a few steps behind the curve. That is the ultimate goal. Or how did Ayn Rand put it? A communist is someone who imposes collectivism by force, whereas the democratic socialist is someone who imposes collectivism by vote. The people vote for their slavery. And you know what? You look at New York City, it's broadly 6-1 Democratic. There was a Democratic primary earlier this year. There was an incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, who was elected to try to clean up the mess that was left by blah, blah, de Blasio. So he was termed out after the 2 terms. In came Eric Adams, who was a former police officer who stressed public safety, who seemed to have an interest in trying to restore some kind of normalcy to New York City. But he was still woke. He was still anti-Trump. Once in a while, he shared some common sense, especially when the migrant crisis overwhelmed New York City. Then he got hit with corruption charges. He was allowing the Chinese Communist Party to set up police stations in New York City as well. There were allegations about his dealings with the Turkish government. That's what aided and abetted all the corruption charges against him. Sure, everything was ultimately dropped, but part of the reason that he was crashing and burning and lost his primary, the Democratic primary, he lost to MAMDANI, is that some of the New Yorkers saw him as too close to Trump. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. Trump derangement syndrome has reached an all-time high in the Big Apple, and they are so obsessed with Orange Man bad that they're going to vote communist man or communist boy good, because Mamdani is barely an adult. The guy has never held a job. Cuomo is correct on all the criticisms. Never introduced a bill. He missed his work when he was a state assemblyman 80% of the time. He didn't do anything. He just showed up. He made TikTok videos. He was an organizer. He's basically another form of Barack Obama. He doesn't have a real history. What he's done is he's just magnetic enough to take advantage of social media and promote himself. And another reminder, Andrew Cuomo, he competed in the Democratic primary and he also lost. As of right now, Cuomo is running as an independent. New York has a sore loser law. So if you lose your party affiliate, your partisan primary, you can run as an independent, or you can try to find some other party label to run under. New York allows you to run under multiple party labels if you choose. But we have to go back to the basic problem here. It's the voters themselves. And there was a time, you could go back 20 years ago, even 30 years ago, they elected New York City, being 6-1 Democratic, they elected Republican mayors. They elected Rudy Giuliani, who was a godsend for the city after suffering under David Dinkins, the previous mayor.
Even Michael Bloomberg.
And then Michael Bloomberg. He was a Republican initially when he was elected. He then switched to independent when he finished out his term. And then ultimately he became a Democrat when he ran for president in 2020. But, there was always that liberalism. And of course, Michael Bloomberg had a terrible time trying to run away from his more centrist, common sense, pro law enforcement record when he was mayor. I mean, Michael Bloomberg could ride the subway. He did ride the subway frequently to get to work because it was to demonstrate, New York City is safe. We are cracking down on crime. We're cracking down on the people who jump the turnstiles and try to evade the subway fares. They cracked down on everything. This was a continuation of what Rudy Giuliani had done. But we have seen this risk before. When Bill de Blasio announced his bid for mayor, all the drama came out, all the dirt came out about him. He was a communist. He was a communist sympathizer himself. And nobody cared. They still elected the fool. This was back in 2013. The problem is the voters. They keep electing these horrid communistic clowns, fools, bigots, demons, whatever you want to call them. And now here's the latest iteration of it. You've got Zoran the moron, as Kurt Sliwa calls him, Zoran MAMDANI. We're just, at some point, it's not just about, maybe there's a chance for New York City to learn from its mistakes. I can even go so far as to say it doesn't matter what happens 4 years or even 2 years from now. The fact of the matter is the only way that this kind of stuff stops, or at least that it stops spreading, is that voters finally get the consequences of their choices. If they insist on putting their lives, their city, their communities at risk, if they insist on being ignorant fools or doubling down on the folly because they're driven by emotion rather than facts, evidence, and reason, to quote H.L. Mencken, they deserve what they get. They deserve to get it good and hard. That is a superficial summary of my take on this whole thing. But we got to look at MAMDANI in a larger context. This is, and this whole New York City battle for mayor, this is very much a referendum for the Democratic Party. Bill Maher has talked about this. You have registered Democratic voters, elected officials across the country who are sweating bullets about this guy. MAMDANI is like the next iteration of the Democratic Party. He wants the grocery stores run by the government. He wants government-funded everything. He is talking about free pre-K education, free bus rides, taxing the billionaires. This guy, as Cuomo brought up, wanted to globalize the Intifada. He's all in on the Palestinian cult. He has refused to condemn the globalize the Intifada chant.
Of course, he's not going to condemn it. It's in his Bible. The Quran tells him.
It's all in the Quran. I mean, gosh, we got to get right back to that. This guy is a Nepo baby Muslim born in Uganda, and his parents are left-wing professors, elites. This guy is not from some poor working class background. One of the most odious videos is this guy when he was being interviewed by some journal. He was eating with his hands, eating rice and beans with his hands to make him seem like he was in touch with his colonial identity and his third world, his third world core. But this guy is a total snob. He's a total elitist. Michael Rappaport, who is like an aggressive left-wing podcaster. He's a comic. He was in a lot of movies in the past. He has been screaming and yelling. He's also Jewish, big supporter of Israel. He has been condemning MAMDANI. He's been raising hell about this guy. And he even showcased a video last week showing MAMDANI dining at one of the most exclusive, expensive sushi restaurants in New York City. This guy is a spoiled brat. He's rich up to his ears and then some. He's never had a job because he never had to have one. Like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who was raised in Wells. She's from Westchester County. I think it's Yorktown or York something, where it's a suburb of Westchester County, New York, where she was raised. These Democratic, these leftists, these progressives, these wannabe Democratic socialists, they are connected to wealth. They are connected to well-being. They are connected to well-positioned political players. They are not poor. They're not down and out. They're not working class people by any stretch. They love to put forward that mantra. Karl Marx was the first guy not only just pushing the Communist Manifesto, but this is a guy who was a bohemian, who was a bum, but he was always well supplied. His dad was rich, gave him everything. He went to diploma mill universities, and you see the same pattern over and over. But then you have to start asking yourself larger questions. Why are registered Democrats in New York City so dumb, so blind, or so woke, which kind of is a summary of the other two? Woke is being, dumb and blind. Why are they lining up behind this guy? Now, there are a couple of possible reasons that are, I didn't explore this as much because it's just so depressing, but you've got a Democratic Party which has a lot of progressive elements. In California, the Democratic Party platform calls for single-payer health care, for example, and the California Democratic Party has never advanced it. It's never gotten to a vote, or, it's never been allowed to come to a vote, even up to now in the state of California. There is a push to, eliminate the Second Amendment, eliminate gun ownership. You have radical elements in the Democratic Party across the country. Socialists took over the Democratic Party in Nevada, for example. They doubled down on the most communistic visions and expectations, and they are eating the current establishment alive. And part of that establishment is Andrew Cuomo, who, in a very lazy fashion, thought he could step into this race, take advantage of Adams' corruption and Mamdani's craziness. He'd be able to cut through the middle and win the nomination. But Cuomo is just a basket case of crime, corruption, criminality, and incompetence. This is the guy who oversaw the COVID lockdowns, shoving grandmas and grandpas into the rest homes while they still had COVID, spreading it to everybody else. He shut down businesses all over the state. This is a guy who had sexual assault allegations against him. This is a guy who was chased out of the governor's mansion in disgrace. Even if there were subsequent investigations which said all the allegations were bogus, the fact is that Cuomo quit. And this is the guy who is supposed to be the alternative to Mamdani. And it's very depressing. This is how bad it is, where you've got New Yorkers, liberal New Yorkers like Michael Rappaport, who are saying, well, we got to go with Cuomo or we're going to get the communist Islamist Mamdani. I mean, this is just, this is worse than, being between a rock and a hard place. Now, that's if you're a liberal. I openly endorsed Kurt Sliwa. I wrote a previous article for Town Hall. Vote for I said New York City, vote for Sliwa, but prepare for the worst. Sliwa is a Republican. He is a perennial candidate, and he's been the Republican candidate, I think, 3 times now. And you've got Republican groups in New York City telling him to drop out. Yeah. These are the Republicans telling him to drop out when they should have been getting behind him, trying to marshal as much resource as possible to get him elected. He is pro-law enforcement. He is pro-people. He cares about the city. He wants to increase the park acreage. He wants to cut down the cost of spending, the cost of business. I mean, all the basic Republican, conservative, common sense policies he wishes to implement. And the fact that he has decades of service as a guardian angel cracking down on crime. These are commendable, this is a commendable resume. And he actually resonates with the audience. He talks about stuff that a lot of people care about. But the problem always becomes the vast majority of voters, they have a D after their name. So they go to the ballot box and they look for the D. And this is a sad problem with all the urban areas throughout the United States. Maybe this is part of the reason we got to let New York crash and burn. The only way that you put a stop to this is maybe it's just like, how do you put out the tire fire? If you have a tire yard that is on fire, there's not enough water in the world to put it out. What you do is you push a little more, you throw a little more gas on it. It goes up all in flames, and then you start over. I hate to say it, but it looks like that's what's going to happen with New York City. In a way, that already happened with Detroit. A lot of people have forgotten this. I think it was in 2014. Detroit went bankrupt. They had nothing. Public workers, as creditors, walked up to the bankruptcy judge, said, hey, look, I worked this many years. I expect this kind of a pension. The judge says, thanks for sharing. Everybody got a haircut, 15%. Pension was cut. Labor unions had no power. The city went bust. Detroit elected a non-black mayor for the first time in decades, showing the political shift. People were willing to try somebody else. Mike Duggan, I think is his name. And, he's a white guy. And he started to bring some common sense back to the cities, tried to bring back some law and order, tried to invite some investment again. There's a whole bunch of empty houses in Detroit. You have some hipsters, Gen Z types who are willing to start moving in, buy a property, try to make it better again. Sometimes you're just going to have to start over. It's really sad, but it looks like that's what's going to happen to New York City. I don't see another way out of this. Another comment, I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but you got people like Charles Murray. He's a frequent contributor to New York Post. He has said, I think conservatives should not be hoping for a Mamdani win. And I had a Republican, his name is Bart Dataline. He actually responded to my town hall article, and I appreciate it. I always love it. Yeah. And he said, this is a really bad idea. They said Kurt Sliwa wasn't a great candidate. They said, you get Mamdani elected, it's going to encourage more progressives, more communists, communists to run for office, get elected. Well, there's communists all over the country who are running for office. They either run as Democrats or they run as socialists or something else. There are socialists who've even gotten elected to the Los Angeles City Council. The only way this stops is that the voters get tired of it. They heard enough. They realize they can't leave. They get fed up with it, and they start to vote differently. Here in LA County, we elected a new district attorney. He's not a Democrat. He was a Republican, became an independent. Things have started to improve. It can turn around. I go back to Detroit. It took a long time, but things started to turn around when the city hit rock bottom, when the population had plummeted to such an extent that they had to start closing multiple schools. The Detroit School District had to shut down a whole bunch of their agencies. That started to get people's attention. So I just say this is what it takes. I'm with George Will on this one. He was talking about this a few months ago, and I kind of ran with that. There is no better inoculation to abject liberalism than to get a full dose of it. And that's what's just going to have to happen in New York City. I mean, I shared this. This is very depressing. You have a large Jewish community in New York City, and you've got a lot of these groups are lining up behind Mamdani. They're voting for him. They're endorsing him. I mean, it's stunning. It's like the Jews voting for the Nazis. I mean, this is a guy who, again, globalized the Intifada, hatred of Israel. He keeps talking about a so-called genocide in Gaza. It shows that the foreign policy issues do very much affect our local issues, local elections. We're seeing this in New York City. You've got Mamdani, who campaigned on defund the police. This is a guy who's lined up with every liberal. He wants to decriminalize prostitution. He has campaigned even for that. And he's supposed to be a Muslim, and Muslims are supposed to be really strict when it comes to family policy. I've seen the protests. There are Muslims against Mamdani. They have coalesced to try to push back on this guy. They've lined up behind Cuomo. But I think it's too little too late. A lot of people, when they're driven by identity politics, they're not going to worry about the values. They're not going to worry about policy. They just care about feelings and identity. Again, this is a form of wokeness, and this is what's driving a lot of the Democrat electorate in New York City. And it's really sad. And it's really frustrating. I mean, there was another city I was following its politics, Providence, Rhode Island. That's the capital city. Much smaller, about 150,000 residents compared to almost 9 million in New York City.
Beautiful town, beautiful area. I've been there.
You've been there. I hope I can visit someday in spite of everything.
Wonderful.
And 2014, they had the mayoral race. They had a Democrat. He was a bankruptcy court judge, total progressive, Jorge Elorza. Then you had a Republican, Dan Harrop. This guy lost the bid for chairman of the Rhode Island Republican Party. He was bitter, a rhino, frequently backstabbed the state party. He even donated money to the Democrat candidate in the mayor's race that he was running in. This is how disgusting it was. Now, why was he so determined to help the Democrat? Because the third candidate was an independent, a former Republican. Get this. His name was Buddy Cianci, Vincent Buddy Cianci. He is notorious, famous, infamous, notorious. Very popular mayor when he was not a criminal. He was forced out. He was elected to 2 sets of terms for Providence. He had even supervised Providence's revitalization in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Okay. So the first time, his first run as mayor, he was forced to resign because he hit his ex-wife's lover on the head with a log. So he was a felon. He had to resign. Rhode Island passed a law
about that. Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten about that.
I'm just trying, and I am going to get back to MAMDANI. The audience needs to understand how bad it is in the urban political scene. This is the worst of the worst in Providence. So this is 2014 again. So Buddy Cianci was forced to resign. I think it was in the mid 80s. So then Rhode Island passes a, forgive the felon law. If you got a felony, you have to stay out of public office for 3 years. He was able to run again, and he got elected again because everybody loved Buddy. And he was very popular. He brought a lot of business. He revitalized the city, as I shared. He gave the city a sense of pride in itself. It is true. He did make the city beautiful. And then he was implicated in massive corruption, Operation Plunderdome. He was forced to resign. He declared his innocence to the very end. He ended up serving 5 years in a federal prison, came back to Providence, started a talk show, opened up his restaurant. He was still famous. Everybody loved him. And now you got this guy running for mayor again, 3rd time around. So you've got the Democrat who is incompetent and progressive. Then you've got the former mayor who has a long history of corruption. And then you got a Republican who is so dishonest and so frustratingly bitter that he's just going to undermine any kind of conservative movement in the city. I never forgot this. I spoke to one of the leadership members of the Rhode Island Republican Party. And I said to him, if you were in Providence, who would you vote for? Again, this is one of the top leaders in the Republican Party. And he said to me, I wouldn't vote. He wouldn't vote. There was a Republican. I'm not voting for that guy. And he wasn't going to vote for the others. This is how bad it's gotten in urban areas. There are no good candidates because the major party is so corrupt, is so distant, so out of touch, so committed to these perverse policies. But there is a slight difference when it comes to New York City. Kurt Sliwa is a good man. He is a strong man. He has a consistent character. He cares about people. He's put his life on the line to help people. I have a friend of mine, Keith Hardeen. He talked about how there was an LA chapter of the Guardian Angels. Didn't last as long as the New York chapter, which
I remember that was back in the 80s.
There you go. But Sliwa was making whatever effort he could to bring law and order back to the city when the police were not stepping up. He's a much better choice. But again, everybody is so convinced that it's going to be a Democratic onslaught. You got to line up behind one or the other. But Cuomo is terrible. He's so corrupt. You don't reward bad behavior. This guy, Cuomo, is so arrogant. He steps in saying, you got to vote for me because I'm not the communist. You got to vote for me because I don't stand with jihad or globalize the intifada. But he's got all these other problems with him. He has no character. He has no integrity. He has a whole host of problems behind him. It's an insult that he's even running for office. And New York City has such a terrible problem with this. I don't know if you even remember Anthony Weiner. Remember the creepy guy who was taking pictures of his crotch and putting it on X, and it was Andrew Breitbart who exposed him and forced him to resign from Congress. That guy ran for mayor, and he was chased out again because he was busted again sending illicit images to minors. He went to prison for that. And guess what? This year, Anthony Weiner ran for city council in New York City. He actually ran again. He ran again. New York City puts up with this crap. The worst people imaginable, who have no character, who have demonstrated a long history of no character, and they will still put their names on the ballot. And you got a lot of people who will just put up with it. New York has a problem. The voters have a serious problem. And you know what?
They have the same problem, though, in San Francisco and Los Angeles.
And here's the funny thing. You look at San Francisco, they got rid of
Gaston.
They got rid of Gaston. Let's see. Gaston, he was termed out and then he came to LA. We got rid of him here. I'm trying to see, it's been so long. You've got Lori is the new mayor. The previous mayor was the black lady. She was forced out.
In San Francisco, you're talking about?
In San Francisco. They got rid of her. Thank you so much. Yeah, London Breed. They got rid of her, and what is it? So Daniel Lurie is, he's trying to he's staying out of the Trump derangement syndrome stuff. He is trying to crack. He's doing a little bit better. I mean, it's not great, but he's doing better. There's been a shift. But with New York City, it's like it's really all terrible unless you vote for Sliwa, and Sliwa, based on the political demographics, doesn't have a chance. It's terrible.
That's my frustration with our own fellow Republicans, where they're weak, hapless, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, where have the Republicans been?
Choice.
I mean, New York, no, don't get me wrong. Republicans have been making inroads. They've elected more city council members. It is true. You have Democratic city council. Now, New York City has
that's your central committees doing that, though. That's not the state Republican Party.
Well, let me
California.
Let me elucidate what's happening in New York City, and then I'll connect it to California and then back again. So Republicans are starting to make inroads even at the New York City council level. Now, we're talking about a city council of like 47 people. It's huge. They have their own speaker. That's how big the city council is. And so more Republicans have gotten elected. Those Republicans are pretty good. Most of them are from Staten Island. Some of them have been elected in some of the other boroughs. However, there's still a pretty distinct minority. People are starting to wake up little by little by little. But if that is the case, they should have went with that. They should be building on those successes. Donald Trump won a number of precincts in New York City. He did. Now, he didn't win the city, but there are more areas where he competed and he defeated Kamala Harris. You would think that the local Republican Party and the state would start investing into those areas, register some voters, bring them over to the GOP. Lee Zeldin, when he ran for governor, I mean, he got pretty close in 22, and it looks like Stefanik or Stephanie. Boy, all these names. There's so many jumping around. Everybody's moving on up. It's fantastic. Stefanik, I think, is her last name. Elaine Stefanik. She is now pulling ahead of Kathy Hochul for governor. So things are changing. So one would think, hey, New York City Republicans, where have you been? You could have propped up somebody. You could have run some voters. You could have registered. You could have made an effort here. And they don't do it. They just fall back and say, well, let's choose the least objectionable Democrat and hope for the best. This is a real problem. It's a problem of imagination. It's a problem of courage. I couldn't agree with you more. It's a serious problem here in California, where Republicans, I think, are just living in the past, holding on to the Reagan, Nixon glory days, not recognizing that they can't hide behind the demographics excuse. They can't hide behind the voter fraud excuse. They need to get off their butts and do something. And it can happen. I mean, in Virginia, a Republican got the governor's race. New Jersey's looking very promising. And New Jersey's been a historically blue state since the 1980s. New Jersey's basically a suburb of New York, and things are shifting in Ciattarelli's direction. So it's time to get rid of the excuses. It's time to start broadening the vision. It's time to make an effort rather than make an excuse. And that's, the New York City Republicans basically made excuses. Well, we don't like Sliwa. He rubs us the wrong way, or he's not conservative enough, or he doesn't like Trump, okay, well, you're going to get a communist. And you know what? They're basically going to get a communist even if Cuomo somehow squeaks it in. Sure, they'll be able to delay the inevitable, but we're going to go right back to the same problems. Eric Adams got elected on a more common sense platform, but inevitably he had to be, orange man bad. He had to go along with the migrant crisis. It was very hard for him to take a stand and get things back in order because the voters want gun control. They want the progressive nonsense. They want the high taxes. They just want to be safe while enjoying their abject liberalism. And this is another problem. Again, this is why this mayor's race is a lot bigger than just the election itself. This is the crisis within liberalism or progressivism to begin with. Progressives seem to have this crazy idea that you can have the baby killing, that you can have the high taxes, that you can have the generous welfare state and pay for everybody, and you're not going to have other day-to-day quality of life problems. But you know what? It's inevitable. If you're not prosecuting the juveniles for these terrible crimes, they're going to do more of them. If you think that being compassionate to the criminals is going to help society, you're wrong. And that's what we've seen for decades. God bless Kurt Sliwa. He went after Cuomo and MAMDANI for defund the police, no money bail, go easy on the juveniles, take away everybody's guns. It's not much of a success. You're still going to basically get communism just a few further steps down the road or behind the curve compared to MAMDANI if you get Cuomo. It's just, and they don't seem to get it. You might as well go all in, or you might as well take a seat and go home.
We can, I mean, two words wraps up the mindset of New Yorkers in general, and that is Chuck Schumer. The fact that that slug has stayed at that pillar of power for how many years now? But as much as we can point the fingers at New York, we got to start looking at ourselves too. We're the same way. We're the same way.
Yeah.
Even on a larger scale, as a matter of fact, with a super majority of Democrats. And now when Prop 50 passes, I hope it's not true. I voted against it. I encourage everyone else to vote no on 50.
Yeah.
But all the polling is starting to show, of course, people lie in those pollings too, because they don't want to appear as being uncool. So you just never know, but it's coming up. It's coming up. What are we, a week away? This is scary as heck if this happens. And 50 passes, and now Newsom and the rest of the Democrats are going to be deciding to what district you live in. We're going to lose seats. Kevin Kiley might be completely districted out, and we fought real hard to get him in. He won't even be on my show. I don't know why. You think he'd be on everybody's show going, you better stand up against this, but he's not. I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on in my own Republican Party in California. They're finally, the state party is stepping up saying no on 50, but all the grassroots and the signs you're seeing and so on, those are your central committees doing that. Those are people like me who are even making our own signs going, no on 50, please pay attention to what's happening here, what they're about to do to us. They're about to take away what we voted for. And that was a commission deciding what the districts were.
And, you know, this brings us, there's a host of other problems. Like, I actually don't believe independent commissions should be drawing up the districts. We need accountability. There needs to be some kind of a hybrid system where we, the voters, directly elect the commissioners. There has to be accountability, because otherwise, you know, they have supposedly a balanced commission of Republican, Democrat, and Independent, but all of those Republicans were from the Bay Area, and I bet you anything, they were all never Trumpers. They were not interested in assisting a conservative cause. A lot of Republicans are the worst enemies in this state because they have good contracts and good relationships with Democratic leaders, and they don't want to ruffle the feathers or lose whatever
there
little.
It is. They want to still get invited to all the cool parties.
That's exactly it. A lot of I can think of one, Mario Guerra of Downey, California, who was a solid state Senate candidate in 2014. He barely lost. That was a district that had been historically blue, but he is now lined up with every Democrat. He invites them onto his podcast. He always says the nice liberal things, and he's not a big fan of Trump. And when he was selected to be a delegate to the RNC convention in 2016, there was so much negative backlash that he, you know, with his tail between his legs, he just ran away and quit. I mean, that kind of shows you they want to be liked. They want to be able to just sit at the cool kids table with the reigning Democrats. And the Democrats can say, look, we're bipartisan. We have a Republican we're sitting with, and we're friends. See, we're not, we're not ideologues. We have Republican friends, and we agree on some things. And no, really, the Republican agrees with you on everything. But I want to build on this thing. This is interesting because you look at California. Are we seeing a similar dynamic? You look at the governor's race, in relation to the mayor's race. And what's interesting is Katie Porter, who's absolutely awful. She's the California Karen. She was in a debate, and when the question was placed to all the Democrat candidates before the labor unions, who supports single payer? She and Villaraigosa opposed single payer. They won't do it. I was stunned. They are not MAMDANI. I'm just saying. We're not seeing some outspoken communistic Democrat rising in the polls in California. I just think that's kind of interesting. In Los Angeles, Karen Bass is in big trouble. The former superintendent of LA Unified has announced a bid against her because he wants common sense back. Here in Los Angeles, LA County, we have absorbed the worst of the worst when it comes to governmental incompetence because of these progressive Democrats. Like I said, we got rid of our district attorney. We got a better DA. There seems to be, there's enough people who have suffered. And I think the other thing too, because with New York, a lot of people end up going to Florida anyway. So MAMDANI getting elected, people will just move sooner. But in LA, the weather's great. The history is great. The scene is great. The entertainment is great. People don't want to leave. So I think they have a stronger incentive to fight. They have a stronger incentive to demand some changes. So I have some hope. I think that might be part of the reason why we have a better chance in California. Regarding Prop 50, for example, you got Governor Newsom. He has just a record of failure. You've got Democrat pundits who recognize him as a fraud or as just a total snake oil salesman. He's not a progressive, not progressive enough. And even if Prop 50 succeeds, as we speak, Indiana is going to change their congressional maps. North Carolina already did. It looks like Florida's already working on it. There is no way that Democrat states can out gerrymander or out unmander and restore Republican representation. Whatever California does, it can't overcome what the other states will do. I think here in California, we may have to be prepared for more local pushback. We're going to have statewide leaders, though, be on the receiving end of failure. They can sue, they can scream and yell all they want, and every one of their bad bills will be struck down by the courts, and Congress will just keep cutting the money. That may be the short-term strategy for now, and people are either going to get sick of it and want to change course, or they'll just leave the state. It is unfortunate, but people will put up with 90-degree humidity in Florida rather than fight for, the wonderful, year-round weather in LA City. But I believe, based on what I'm seeing, a lot of Californians don't want to leave. They want to fight and make California, livable again. And I'm just saying, you see a lot of these contentious races coming up into next year, and we don't see a MAMDANI type of candidate rising in the polls right now. I just think that's pretty interesting. Don't get me wrong, Karen, Katie Porter, Antonio Villaraigosa, I wouldn't vote for them. I don't like them, but they are starting to move to the right, whether it comes to the single payer question, when it comes to the tax issue, when it comes to the gas issue, when it comes to trying to bring jobs back. They have to, because they're seeing.
But it's fake. It's fake.
You think, okay.
We know they don't really believe that. They're saying
even
that
if politicians don't, 9 times out of 9.5, George Wallace of Alabama, he actually did not support segregation, but he campaigned on it because that's what the voters wanted. And this goes back to my point with New York City. If New Yorkers are sending a message of give us the commie, fine, let them have it. Here in LA, I can tell you, LA City, we've had LA City Council members have been elected on a support the police, stop the homeless, cut the crap, clean up the streets platform. Tracy Park, who just got elected in the West, along the beach, along the coastline, she replaced one of the most obnoxious councilmen who wanted to put up homeless apartments on the beach, on Will Rogers Beach, which is like prime real estate. Everybody goes there so they can have a good time with their families. They don't want to see a bunch of drugged out, homeless deadheads who are contaminating the beach. He wanted to build something there. Tracy Park replaced the guy, putting an end to that homeless crap. She even took steps to get rid of all the RVs. You have homeless who live in their RVs taking up the streets. That's happening in Marin County as well.
I was going to say, Marin, which is County. Like the elite.
And they're getting tired of it. They are saying enough. We have a quality of life we want to keep. New York City, New Yorkers will just go to Florida, or they'll just go to South Carolina. That's just a common practice anyway for the Northeast. But California, hey, we're kind of boxed in. We don't want to leave. I know I don't. I'm still here after everyone else in my family left California if they survived. Uncles, aunts, cousins, everybody, they left. But I'm still here by the grace of God. And I still want to be here as much as I can. And I hope that we can learn from what happens in New York City. I'm still sadly confident, if you can call it that, or cynically accepting that MAMDANI is going to be the next mayor. And you know what? New York, you deserve it. And you know what? Every Republican who runs for office should tie MAMDANI to every Democrat they run against. Republicans in California should attach MAMDANI to every Democrat they run against. Numbers are moving to the right. Newsom may be able to gerrymander the districts, but that's not a guarantee. We may be surprised to see the congressional seat that's created in Imperial County. Well, they just elected a Republican assemblyman, did they not? That's a seat that was like 13 points Democrat. A Republican just got elected. Let's see what happens next year. Maybe a Republican congressman actually makes it. Who knows? Voter demographics change. Voter patterns are starting to change, even in California. I'm always optimistic. I'm always hopeful. I respect where you're coming from, too. We can't be resting on our laurels. And damn it, the state party actually needs to be a party. And those central committees need to start being committees that actually do the work. And New York City, we're seeing what happens when Republicans don't do the job. Don't register voters, don't run candidates, don't raise money. Great. You're going to have a communist or a corrupt criminal be your next mayor because you won't support the Republican.
Bravo, buddy. Exactly.
I know I kind of filibustered. I guess a little bit of the New Yorker came out of me, although I have nothing to do with New York City. But I say, let's take advantage of this. I really do. And Trump, I think Trump should run that in 2026. Every Republican should say, this is the Democratic Party. His name is Zoran Mamdani. He loves terrorists. He loves criminals. He wants to kill your kids. He wants to run your grocery store. He wants to take away your money. He's already doing it. This is the Democratic Party. Do you want this running Washington? If not, you better vote for me. Do you want this running California? Whether it's Bianco or Hilton, it looks like Hilton's going to be the Republican. If the polls are true, we've still got about 6 months. Who knows? But if Hilton's got the smarts, or if it's Bianco who gets the nod, they need to be putting Katie Porter or Villaraigosa and have a picture of Mamdani next to it, or a picture of George Gascon, and say, do you want this guy running your state? If you don't, then you got to choose somebody with a little more common sense who's actually going to protect your neighborhood. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Where do we find you? You want to follow Arthur. You want to read his stuff. He's always got great insight, puts a lot of work into it. Where do we find you, buddy?
I'm all over. Townhall.com. American Greatness. They just republished my article today on Mamdani. Also American Thinker, Canada Free Press, of all places. They even take my stuff from time to time. I always want to tell people about the work I do for Mass Resistance, massresistance.org, fighting the pro-family fight against this LGBT madness, which, again, you'd think would sink Mamdani, Mr. Muslim. He pals up with the Pride movement big time. That's why a lot of Muslims are starting to move against him. Let's see what happens, though, come next week. And there it is. I appreciate everybody reaching out, and I always appreciate you having me on.
Oh, let's talk about your blog spot too.
Oh, okay. Sure. ashopper1.blogspot.com. You'll see some of the letters that I received from readers too, including Mr. Dowdeline, and what I had to say in response to him.
For those listening and not actually watching the video here, the telecast, spell that out. Shopper, spell that out.
Oh, brother. Here we go. So it's
the letter A.
Right. SCHAPER1.blogspot.com. That's my own personal blog.
.blogspot.com. All right, my friend. Thanks for making time for my little old show here, buddy. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks again. I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Anytime. Love having him on. Go to my website too. You want to help out and buy some merchandise just in time for Christmas. Hey, they're already putting Christmas stuff up in stores, so I'll say the same thing. Let's talk about politics and religion. Do not talk. 15-ounce mug, big old mug. I love this mug. I got big hands, and all my fingers fit in that handle right there, baby. And of course, it's red. So go to charliesimons.com. Get yourself one of those mugs or one of the other mugs, hats, shirts, and you'll be helping the show because I get a portion of the profit that the company makes that sell my stuff, like this hat right here. charliesimons.com. CharlieSimons.com. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.